Have you ever, just stumbled upon a photograph that was tucked away for decades?
Oh, yeah, like hidden in the back of a drawer somewhere.
Exactly, just
Yeah.
an old, faded photograph that, well, you look at it and you realize it holds this entire quiet love story that everyone else forgot.
It's a very specific feeling.
It is. It's almost like a memory just sort of drifting back into your awareness from out of nowhere.
Right, like two strangers who maybe just shared a silence during a sudden rainstorm.
Yeah. Or, I don't know, a promise that was forgotten in the moonlight. It leaves you with this soft, lingering question, like what happens to all that quiet love when the world just keeps rushing by?
I mean, does it just wait for us to notice it again?
I think it does. Welcome to Slumber Love Stories.
It's so wonderful to be here with you all tonight.
It really is. I'm so glad we're settling in together. So, tonight we're doing a deep dive into a really beautiful, quiet piece of short fiction.
Yeah, it's called The Patience of Roses and Bees.
And, today we aren't going to be pulling out rapid-fire trivia or decoding anything intense. That's not the mission of this deep dive.
No, not at all. We really want to just take our time. We're going to explore the quiet mechanics of mature love.
Right. And the architecture of grief, I guess you could call it.
Yeah, the profound, invisible processes that allow a closed heart to slowly, very slowly open up again.
Exactly. So I want to ask you, the listener, to just take a deep breath right now.
Just a nice, slow breath.
Yeah. Just settle in wherever you are. Let the rush of the day, the noise of your commute, the endless urgency of your schedule, just let all of that fade out.
Just let it drift away.
Imagine stepping into the cool, dappled shade of a quiet English village garden. We're traveling to the village of Ashwell.
Ashwell. It sounds so peaceful just saying it.
It really does. And to understand the connection that eventually blooms here, we kind of have to map out the psychological geography of this village first.
Right, because Ashwell is small, it's very intimate.
Yeah, and because of that intimacy, we encounter this fascinating social dynamic. Everyone in Ashwell knows, like the broad shape of everyone else's story.
Oh, the broad shape. I love that phrase.
Right, it's just the parts that you can summarize in a single sentence over a garden fence.
It's such a brilliant entry point into the cognitive mechanics of a community, really. When you look at the sociology of small towns, we often talk about Dunbar's number.
Remind me what that is again.
It's basically the theory that humans can only comfortably maintain around, say, 150 stable social relationships.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Right. But within that network, there are tiers of cognitive load. Deep empathetic engagement takes an immense amount of neurological energy.
It's exhausting, honestly.
It really is. So when a member of a community experiences a catastrophic loss like losing a spouse, the raw reality of that grief is just too heavy for the whole village to carry every single day.
So what do they do instead?
Well, the community uses a sort of cognitive shortcut. They reduce this complex, agonizing human life into a digestible label. They create shorthand.
Yeah, and we see exactly what that shorthand looks like in this story. We're introduced to Margaret Holt.
Margaret.
And to the village, her sentence over the fence is simply, well, she's the retired schoolteacher who lost her husband Arthur 4 years ago.
Right, the one who keeps the cottage with the big rose garden.
Exactly. That is the absolute entirety of her identity in the public eye.
Yeah.
And then there's Thomas Avery.
And his shorthand is similar, right?
Yeah. He's the quiet man who moved to the village 6 years ago after his wife passed away.
The one who keeps bees on the hill and sells honey at the Saturday market.
That's it. That's how they exist in this ecosystem of Ashwell. It's just, a functional reduction.
It really is. By defining Margaret and Thomas purely by their past tragedies, the village can interact with them without triggering all those overwhelming emotional demands.
Right, the demands of fresh grief.
Exactly. It just allows the community to function smoothly. They nod on the high street, they exchange polite, shallow pleasantries in the post office queue.
Yeah, they're just existing in this uncomplicated, highly regulated social choreography. But I have to challenge that dynamic a little bit.
Oh, how so?
Well, is this habit of reducing people to a single sentence, is it truly a protective mechanism or is it kind of a trap?
That's a really good question.
Because while it might protect the community's energy, what is it doing to Margaret and Thomas? I kind of think about it like parallel radio towers.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Yeah, like Margaret and Thomas are both broadcasting on the exact same frequency of profound, life-altering grief. But because the village has built this polite, insulating structure around them, their signals are just passing through the empty air.
They're right next to each other, but entirely isolated.
Exactly. They are trapped in this suspended animation of politeness.
And that's really the tragic paradox of early grief. In the immediate aftermath of a loss, that polite insulation is absolutely vital.
Because you just can't handle anything else.
Right. It serves as a necessary cocoon. When your entire internal world has just collapsed, you don't have the bandwidth to explain your sorrow to the baker or the postman.
No, you actively want that broad shape to be enough. You need that boundary.
Exactly. But the danger happens when the cocoon calcifies. I mean, 4 years have passed for Margaret, 6 years for Thomas.
Yeah, the acute trauma has faded, but the social architecture of their isolation is just entirely intact.
The cocoon has hardened into a cage.
It really has. They're just surviving. The narrative paints this picture of them trying to get through the day with, quote, some measure of grace.
Which is such a beautifully heavy phrase, isn't it?
It is. Just trying to maintain your composure in the frozen food aisle. Just trying to boil the kettle without letting the silence of the kitchen deafen you.
Yeah. If we just pause and really immerse ourselves in the sensory texture of their lives, you can feel that oceanic loneliness.
Oh, absolutely. Just imagine the rhythmic, solitary ticking of the grandfather clock in Margaret's hallway.
Or the steam rising from a single isolated teacup on her counter.
Yeah. And you can feel the cold wind pulling at Thomas's coat as he takes his solitary walk up that long hill to his hives.
There's this polite pleasantness to their public interactions, but beneath the floorboards, it's just heavy, stagnant water.
They're frozen in time, adhering to a script written by their past losses. But what we begin to see is that while the human structures of Ashwell were keeping them safely apart,
something else was happening.
Right. A completely different ancient biological network was already operating beneath the surface. Nature doesn't recognize the polite boundaries of human grief.
It really doesn't. Which brings us to the physical elements of their lives, the living memorials. Let's look closely at Margaret for a second.
Okay, yeah, she lives at the end of Wren Lane.
And she's the caretaker of this massive, sprawling rose garden. But this isn't a hobby she chose for herself.
No, not at all. This garden was Arthur's project.
Right. Arthur planted the beds, he selected the varietals, he spent 20 years meticulously tending the soil.
He had that sustained, deeply horticultural patience.
Yes, and Margaret openly admits she does not naturally share that patience. Yet, 4 years after his death, she's out there with the pruning shears.
Desperately trying to keep it alive.
Exactly. We have to examine the psychological weight of inherited physical legacies. Margaret is engaging in a complex mechanism of artificial preservation.
Right, because the physical acts of gardening, they're demanding.
Very. The precise angle required to prune a stem, the careful aeration of the soil, the frantic battle against black spot disease.
It takes a specific, educated intuition, and Margaret doesn't have it.
No. She is mimicking Arthur's passion out of a sense of profound devotion. She feels like if the roses die, it would just be another irreplaceable loss.
She's carrying a ghost. And I genuinely wonder, is keeping a deceased partner's garden an anchor that grounds you to their memory in a healthy way? Or is it a haunting?
That's a heavy thought.
It is. She is trapped by the biological demands of these plants. Tending roses is an exercise in delayed gratification and intense pressure.
You have to endure the barren winter, perform brutal cuts to the wood, and constantly worry if you've done it correctly.
All for the hose of a bloom months down the line. It's this heavy, rooted, thorny legacy. She's living in constant fear of failing his memory.
It is undoubtedly a haunting because it's an act of holding on to a closed system. The rose garden represents Arthur's completed life.
Right.
Contrast that psychological state with Thomas's situation up on the hill. Thomas also suffered a devastating loss when his wife Helen passed away.
But Thomas didn't inherit the bees from Helen.
Exactly. The apiary is his own pursuit, and the literal mechanics of beekeeping require an entirely different psychological posture than tending a memorial rose garden.
I love this contrast. Margaret is down in the valley, just weighed down by the past, and Thomas is up on the hill working with a superorganism.
Right.
How did the mechanics of beekeeping force a different emotional state for him?
Well, a beehive is a dynamic, hyperactive environment. It relies on complex pheromone communication and collective intelligence. When a human interacts with a hive, they cannot be distracted. If a beekeeper's mind is wandering in the past, or if their movements are jerky and anxious.
The bees will know.
Oh, they definitely know. They sense the subtle chemical shifts in human sweat. The hive will interpret the beekeeper as a threat and attack.
Oh, wow. So keeping bees demands absolute grounded presence.
It really does. Thomas has had to train his nervous system to be calm, to move slowly, and to exist entirely in the current moment.
So it's basically a biological enforcement of mindfulness. If you lose focus, you get stung.
Exactly. Thomas uses the bees to pull himself out of the grief of the past and firmly into the immediate present. He has cultivated a living stillness.
While Margaret is drowning in a rigid past, they're operating in two completely isolated emotional paradigms.
But the brilliance of the natural ecosystem is that these paradigms are biologically reliant on one another.
Right, because the bees need nectar and pollen to make honey.
And the roses, in their drive to reproduce, produce an abundance of nectar to attract pollinators.
Which leads us to the collision. And it doesn't happen with a dramatic crash, does it?
No, not at all.
It happens in the most delightfully mundane, subtle way possible. We find ourselves at the Saturday market in the center of the village.
And the entire inciting incident hinges on a woman selling eggs.
I love this part. Margaret is standing at the egg stall, and she's internally fretting. She has this vague worry about the new growth on her roses.
Which is such a flawless parallel for her internal state. She's experiencing new emotional growth, and she doesn't know how to handle it.
So true. She mentions her worry about the roses out loud.
And this is where we see the broad shape dynamic actually serve a positive function.
Oh, how so?
Well, the woman at the egg stall casually observes that Thomas Avery would likely know what to do about the roses, since his bees spend half their time in Margaret's garden anyway.
This completely upends how we usually view small-town observation. We usually think of curtain-twitching neighbors as toxic, you know.
Right, constantly judging.
But here, the sociology of casual observation acts as an accidental matchmaker. The egg stall woman is a node in the community network.
She possesses a piece of data, the flight path of the bees, that Margaret and Thomas are entirely blind to.
We often refer to this as the strength of weak ties in sociology, right?
Yes, exactly. The egg woman isn't deeply emotionally invested in either of them. She's a weak tie. But weak ties are often the bridges that connect isolated clusters.
And the biological poetry of that is just staggering. I mean, for years, long before they ever broke the ice.
Thomas's bees were flying down the hill.
Yes. Entering the airspace of Margaret's garden, gathering the essence of Arthur's legacy, and carrying it back up the hill to Thomas.
Nature was literally cross-pollinating their lives.
When Thomas was extracting honey, jarring it, selling it at the market, that sweetness was fueled by the anxious labor Margaret was performing down in the valley.
They were intimately connected, completely unaware of the invisible threads binding them together.
It's beautiful. And this revelation shifts Margaret's perspective. It gives her permission to cross that polite boundary. She approaches Thomas's stand.
Let's really step into the sensory details of this market encounter.
Okay, let's do it. Imagine the heavy, sweet scent of beeswax warming in the morning sun.
The sticky, golden jars perfectly stacked on the rough wooden table.
The ambient hum of the villagers chatting. Margaret approaches Thomas. He's tall, still, and unhurried.
And she haltingly explains her problem with the new growth, probably feeling so awkward breaking the silence of years of mere polite nodding.
And Thomas, this man defined by the village as completely withdrawn, looks at her and says, "My bees speak very highly of your roses."
It's just a masterful deployment of humor as a psychological tool.
It really is. Gentle humor bypasses a person's defensive perimeter. Margaret was probably braced for a dry transactional exchange.
But by attributing speech to his bees, he introduces this sudden whimsical absurdity. It completely derails her anxiety.
It forces a genuine reaction. It makes her laugh before her brain even has time to process the joke. That's the magic of gentle humor.
It slips right past the guards at the gate. And in that involuntary laugh, all the heavy, calcified, polite distance just crumbles. It's an invitation.
Yeah. That moment of shared amusement shifts their relationship from public to private. It sets the stage for his visit to her garden.
Which brings us to a mild Tuesday morning in late May. We're moving into the deeply private sanctuary of the rose garden.
This scene is really the bedrock of their entire dynamic. Thomas arrives, and Margaret observes something vital about him.
He moves through the beds with a quiet, unhurried attention. He isn't rushing to diagnose the problem. He isn't performing expertise.
Let's talk about that, because performing expertise is such a massive hurdle in human connection. especially around pain.
It really is. When we witness someone struggling, our anxiety spikes. To soothe our own discomfort, we rush to fix the problem.
We want to show our competence. We offer unsolicited advice. We try to force a solution.
We effectively take over. We perform our expertise to regain control.
It's like we grab the emotional pruning shears and just start hacking away at the other person's grief, hoping to make it look neater.
That's a perfect way to put it. But Thomas doesn't do that. His background with the bees has trained him to observe without interfering.
He walks the paths exactly the way Arthur used to walk them. He simply looks, and when he finally offers his diagnosis, it's profoundly simple.
He tells her the plants need mostly time and less interference.
If we extract that botanical diagnosis and apply it to the human nervous system, it's the ultimate model for emotional recovery.
Yes. When an organism experiences trauma, its biological imperative is to heal. But we constantly disrupt our own emotional homeostasis.
We interfere. We pick at the psychological scabs.
We obsessively monitor our progress, demanding that we feel happy by a certain date. We aggressively manage our sadness.
But true healing requires us to step back. We have to provide basic nourishment, rest, safety, and then get out of our own way.
Time and less interference is an incredibly difficult prescription because it requires relinquishing control.
It takes so much restraint to just sit with the discomfort of doing nothing. And following this diagnosis, the energy between them shifts.
They move to the garden bench. Margaret makes tea.
You can almost feel the warmth of the ceramic cup in your hands. The mild May sunshine warming your shoulders. They sit in this shared, comfortable space.
They talk about the roses, the bees, and then the conversation deepens. They start talking about themselves.
Not the broad shapes the village knows, but their actual complex selves.
This is a critical moment of vulnerability. Margaret opens up about her past career as a teacher.
She describes the satisfaction of working with a struggling student, guiding a child through a problem until they understand it.
By sharing this, she is demanding to be seen as a multifaceted human being. She's bringing Margaret the educator into the light.
Refusing to be defined solely as Arthur's grieving widow.
And Thomas listens with that same unhurried attention. And he makes a quiet observation. He says, "You were patient with them, the ones who took longer."
And Margaret's response is incredibly honest. She says, "I tried to be. I wasn't always, but I tried."
Which prompts Thomas to deliver what might be the philosophical core of this entire narrative.
Yeah, he responds, "That's most of what patience is, I think. Trying and trying again when you don't manage it."
We really need to pause and unpack this. It completely rewrites the cultural script we are handed about patience.
It does. We're taught that patience is this serene, unshakable state of tranquility, a placid lake without a single ripple.
Right. And if you feel frustrated, you failed at being patient. But Thomas frames it as an active, gritty, recurring behavioral choice.
It's rooted in frustration tolerance, isn't it?
And neuroplasticity. When we learn a new skill or heal from a wound, we will encounter failure. The nervous system will experience distress.
So Thomas is suggesting that patience is simply the refractory period of that distress.
Exactly. It's losing your temper, feeling the frustration, and then consciously choosing to reset and attempt the task again.
It's a philosophy of profound self-forgiveness.
Right.
I think about it like learning a complex piece of music on the piano.
Oh, how so?
We imagine patience is just sitting at the keys and calmly accepting that you don't know the song. But reality is playing the wrong chord, wincing.
Wanting to slam the lid shut.
Exactly. Taking a deep breath and saying, okay, let's take it from the top. It is the sheer willingness to return to the effort.
And by articulating this specific, forgiving definition of patience, Margaret and Thomas are engaging in an advanced form of relational boundary setting.
They're establishing the soil conditions for their own connection.
Yes. By admitting their flaws, Margaret's impatience, Thomas's struggles, they are mutually acknowledging their humanity.
Giving each other explicit permission to be imperfect.
Promising, "I will not demand seamless perfection from you, only that you keep returning to the effort." It creates a very secure attachment framework.
They built a safe harbor. And it's in this harbor that a new rhythm begins to form. As May warms into June, and June stretches into July.
They establish a gentle, undemanding routine.
Thomas begins stopping by once a week on his way down from the hives. Margaret hears the click of the gate. She puts the kettle on.
They spend an hour on the bench in the dappled afternoon sun. The narrative notes that this rhythm was unhurried.
In the particular way of people who have learned that hurrying is rarely worth what it costs, that is a psychological truth paid for with immense sorrow.
It is. When we are young, the ego demands urgency. Every emotion is an emergency. If you feel love, it must be declared by midnight.
We rush to consume our lives.
Yeah.
But catastrophic loss teaches a brutal lesson about time. Time is a thief, but it's also the only effective medicine.
Hurrying through a peaceful hour doesn't make it better, it just accelerates its end. They have learned to fully inhabit the physical space of the bench.
Without anxiously projecting into the future. And because they've eliminated that anxiety, they do something highly unusual in a blossoming romance.
They bring the past directly into the present. They talk about Arthur and Helen.
I really want to interrogate this dynamic. Because on the surface, this violates every rule of modern dating.
It really does.
You're sitting on a beautiful bench with a man you have feelings for, and you start talking about your dead husband.
Yeah.
Doesn't that trigger a threat response?
Doesn't it kill the romantic tension?
Yeah. Doesn't it remind Thomas he's in a garden built by another man? How does this not end in disaster?
Well, if they were operating from a place of insecure attachment, it absolutely would end in disaster.
Because the romantic ego demands absolute primacy.
Right. It operates on a scarcity model of love. It wants to believe it's the only true love the partner has ever experienced.
To discuss a past love triggers intense jealousy. It feels like competing with a ghost. And you can never win against a ghost.
Ghosts never leave their socks on the floor or burn the toast.
Exactly. They are perfect.
But Margaret and Thomas are operating from a framework of mature, integrated grief. They recognize a fundamental psychological truth.
Which is
You cannot truly love a person in their present state while demanding they amputate the parts of their psyche grown in the soil of a previous life.
Wow. Yeah, Margaret's capacity for devotion, her resilience, those were forged in her marriage to Arthur.
And Thomas's quiet strength, his groundedness, were forged in his love for and loss of Helen. These people shaped them too entirely to be left out.
So practically speaking, how do they discuss them without turning the conversation into a shrine?
By focusing on the mundane realities, not the tragic halo. Margaret complains, with warm exasperation, that Arthur made far too much soup on Sundays.
And Thomas talks about Helen's stubborn conviction that she could solve any problem in the dirt. They're recalling the lived-in, imperfect reality.
This normalizes the past. It removes the threat.
It's about honoring the architect who helped build the person sitting next to you. Margaret even reaches a point of profound closure.
Yes, she admits she talked Arthur out of keeping bees years ago.
She says she was wrong about that and wrong about a lot of things, but adds, most of them don't matter anymore. The battles have lost their sting.
Only the warm, faded affection remains. She's at peace with the past. And that peace is the precursor for the next phase of their connection.
As the high summer of August arrives, the environment shifts again. August. Just the word sounds heavy, golden, thick with heat.
The landscape is at its peak. The roses are entering their second flush of blooming.
The beehives are heavy with peak summer honey. And mirroring this abundance, the relationship subtly expands. Thomas starts arriving earlier.
Staying a little later, the hour on the bench stretches into a long afternoon.
It isn't a formal negotiation. It just happens naturally, like a plant leaning toward a steady source of light.
But the most critical evolution is happening internally within Margaret's neurological pathways.
Right. While cutting roses one morning, she has this sudden realization. Throughout the week, she has begun saving things to tell him.
This is such a quiet phrase, but it represents a massive psychological milestone. In a long marriage, the brain rewires itself to include the partner.
You develop a shared cognitive system. If you see something funny, your brain automatically fires a signal to share it.
And when the spouse dies, those neural pathways don't instantly vanish. The brain still generates the impulse to share.
But the signal hits a void. The receiver is gone.
This creates the echoing silence of the unshared thought. It's an exhausting micro-trauma of grief. For 4 years, her thoughts dissolved into the empty air.
It's the invisible tether of intimacy snapping. We experience a micro version of this now. You see a ridiculous license plate, your hand reaches for your phone.
Because you know exactly who you want to text. We map our emotional proximity based on who we want to consume our experiences with.
And for Margaret, that internal map has been blank for 4 years. But now, she notices a small detail, and her brain doesn't let it dissolve.
It packages the memory and saves it for Thomas. By creating a repository of thoughts for him, her brain confirms a new, secure attachment has formed.
She has an emotional destination again. The void has been filled. And what's so moving is how she processes this realization.
It doesn't hit her like a lightning bolt of anxiety. It comes quietly, without alarm.
It arrives the way the acknowledgement of something good usually does, when you've had enough life experience to receive it without flinching.
Emotional regulation is a key benefit of maturity. A younger person might panic. What does this mean? Are we moving too fast?
They might instinctively pull away to protect themselves. But Margaret has the capacity to observe the feeling, recognize its warmth, and let it exist.
It's the real-world application of patience, time and less interference. She isn't interfering with her own heart, she's just letting it beat.
And this internal certainty sets the stage for the climax of our story, the Twilight Confession.
The sequence is a masterclass in pacing and atmospheric alignment. The environment mirrors their internal resolution.
We need to slow right down to experience this. It's late August, the heat of the day is broken, they've sat past their usual hour.
The sky is turning this incredible bruised spectrum of colors, deep gold melting into heavy rose pink.
The air is cooling, the bees have returned to the hives, and as the humidity rises at dusk, the essential oils in the rose petals evaporate more slowly.
The scent of the garden reaches its absolute peak intensity.
The air is saturated. The fading of the harsh daylight allows the true essence of the garden to come forward. It forces a natural stillness.
The performative energy of the day is gone. Only the truth remains.
And in this fragrant twilight, Thomas breaks the comfortable silence. He looks at the fading sky and offers a quiet apology. I've kept you late. I'm sorry.
It's a gentle probe. He's testing the boundary, offering her an easy exit if the intimacy is stretching too far.
But Margaret, completely secure in her own feelings, refuses the exit. So he says, you haven't. I was going to suggest we stay, actually. The garden is best at this hour.
And Thomas agrees, noting, everything is, I find. This is a profound double meaning.
He's acknowledging the beauty of the Twilight Garden, but also the late hour of their own lives, validating this mature late-stage chapter.
It's an embrace of their shared timeline. Margaret then offers the final bridge. I'm glad you came about the roses.
Explicitly stating her gratitude for his physical presence in her life. And Thomas steps fully onto the bridge. He makes his confession.
So am I. Though I'll admit the roses were mostly an excuse by the second visit.
It's such a devastatingly quiet confession. He strips away the excuse entirely. He didn't come to fix Arthur's legacy.
He came to sit on a bench with Margaret. He came for her.
And Margaret looks at him, sitting still in the fading light, and feels the full weight of it. She recognizes that she loves him.
But the narrative draws an important distinction here. She realizes it is not the wild, urgent version of love she remembers from youth.
It is something warm and certain and in no particular rush. We really must contrast these two paradigms of love.
Our culture overwhelmingly idolizes the wild and urgent. The Romeo and Juliet model, the passion that burns incredibly hot, fueled by anxiety.
The desperate need to merge identities. That urgent energy has its purpose in youth, but it's inherently unstable.
I think about the physics of it. That wild love is a fireworks display. It requires an explosive chemical reaction.
It's loud, spectacular, lights up the sky, and briefly blinds you to everything else. But it lasts for seconds.
And when it's over, you're left standing in the dark with the smell of sulfur and ringing ears. You cannot warm your hands over a firework.
Brilliant analogy. What Margaret and Thomas have cultivated is entirely different. They found a bed of glowing hardwood coals in a heavy iron fireplace.
It takes a long time to build that kind of fire. You have to burn off all the volatile compounds, the drama, the anxiety, the ego.
But once those impurities burn away, you're left with pure, radiant, sustainable thermal energy. It doesn't flare up or make a sound.
But if you sit next to it, it will keep you warm through the longest, coldest, darkest winter night. It's a love built for survival.
It is the love of people who have survived the winter, who value steady warmth over blinding spectacle. Their final exchange is the ultimate proof of this.
Margaret, feeling that warmth, playfully chides him. You could have said, meaning you could have told me weeks ago you were coming for me.
And Thomas replies, I wasn't sure you were ready, and I didn't want to rush anything.
He actively applied his own philosophy of patience to her heart. He gave her time and less interference, observed her emotional weather,
and waited for the right season. Then Margaret says, you could have asked. I would have told you.
And Thomas, with that gentle humor, asks, would you?
Margaret considers it honestly, looking back at her own slow process of dismantling defenses. She replies with a single, perfect word. Eventually.
Eventually. It's the absolute triumph of patience. She doesn't rewrite history and claim she would have confessed on day 2.
She acknowledges she needed the entire summer. She needed the tea, the bench, the silence, the stories about Arthur and Helen.
She needed time. They laughed together in the darkening garden. The bees are asleep on the hill. The roses are giving off the last of their scent.
And they simply sit there, two people who endured a long, freezing isolation, realizing the steady warmth was worth every patient moment of waiting.
The broad shapes of their public lives have been entirely filled in with the complex, beautiful details of genuine connection.
They are no longer defined by the tragedy of what they lost, but by the quiet, deliberate joy of what they are patiently building together.
As we gently pull back from Ashwell, as the stars fully appear over the hedgerows and the garden fades into the quiet night,
Let's slowly summarize the profound mechanics we've explored today. We examined how communities use cognitive shorthand to manage grief.
and how that protective cocoon can eventually become a cage. We looked at the biological burden of carrying a physical legacy.
And the contrasting psychological freedom found in the hyperpresence of a beehive.
We observed the invisible networks that cross-pollinate our lives long before we are consciously aware of them.
We unpacked a revolutionary, forgiving definition of patience, not as a serene absence of frustration, but as the gritty, resilient act of choosing to try again.
We analyzed the relational maturity required to coexist with the ghosts of past loves, honoring the architects of the people we care for.
And we tracked the neurological shift from solitary grief to shared joy, marking the moment when the void is filled by the simple act of saving a thought.
We learned that the most effective way to heal a broken heart or a struggling rosebush is simply to offer time and step out of the way.
It serves as a reminder that no matter how severe the emotional winter, if the roots are allowed to rest and the tending is gentle.
There is always the potential for a second flush of growth.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, as you let the quiet of the evening settle around you, I want to leave you with one final reflective question.
Something to mull over.
We spend so much of our lives forcing the timeline, demanding immediate results from our careers, rapid closure for our healing.
Instant certainty in our relationships. We constantly interfere.
Ask yourself, where in your own life are you applying wild, urgent energy, when what your heart or your current struggle truly needs is the quiet, unhurried patience of a beekeeper?
That is a beautiful question worth carrying with you into the stillness of the night.
Thank you for spending this peaceful evening with us on Slumber Love Stories. If this story brought warmth to your heart and calm to your night, be sure to subscribe Slumber Love Stories for more romantic bedtime journeys. Until next time, sleep well, dream sweetly, and let love guide your dreams.